Yields back. I now recognize Mr. Ezell from Mississippi for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today and sharing with us, because we are way behind and we recognize that. So the capabilities of AI are advancing very rapidly, as we've talked about today. It's just kind of like when you buy a phone, it's outdated, they want to sell you another one. I have some concern about government oversight and overregulation that I'd like to talk about a little bit. I spent most of my career as a law enforcement officer and a sheriff. I've seen directly how government red tape can get in the way of law enforcement. And if American industry is smothered by regulation and reporting requirements, our adversaries are, they're going to develop new AI capabilities before we do. And we cannot let this happen. I have concerns that the Biden administration's executive order on AI grants 4 departments and countless agencies jurisdiction over AI. Specifically, under this committee's jurisdiction, DHS is tasked with establishing guidelines and best practices around AI. As always, when regulating an industry, especially when the government's involved, the language must be clear in its intent so that we can get it right. Mrs. Moore, how could a lack of coordination between federal agencies and the private industry, especially while establishing guidelines, hamper innovation in AI?
I think it's most important that we focus on not hampering innovation, for starters. Right. And by that, what I mean is that we have, these open source systems that people who are in medium and small businesses or technology groups or research and development groups have an opportunity to innovate and help bring us further along than what we are today from a cybersecurity standpoint, from an AI standpoint. And we can't stifle that innovation. A lot of the greatest ideas come out of those entities. But also, we have to guard against the idea of AI as a technology. This is such an inflection point. It's too important a technology to be just in the hands of a small group of large organizations, let's say. And so I think that there is a balance that needs to be struck, that we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, but that we need thoughtful leadership around achieving AI that's not predatory, achieving AI that's open, achieving AI that is like when you go to a restaurant and you get to see the kitchen and how the people are cooking your food, and whether there's cleanliness and there's good best practices there. AI needs to be open as well in that way.
That's why we need to try to keep the government out of it as much as possible. Ms. Moore, in your opinion, should DHS and CISA have a role in the regulation of AI?
I think that DHS and CISA have a lot of inputs and a lot of important learnings that need to be incorporated in any sort of discussion around regulation. I also think that really with AI, we have to look at the use cases. We really have to examine that, and everything needs to be, we need to offer a standard of care that allows us to not be draconian. This is an evolving space, and so we want to make sure that the folks who are closest to it, our experts, are also engaging and providing inputs.
Thank you very much. I was listening to Representative Swalwell talk about lack of prosecution, lack of anything getting done, and going back to my small hometown, one of our local churches got hacked and locked everything down, and the preacher had to use his own credit card to pay $500 to get him to turn that thing loose. Our hospital system was hacked, and it's just, it goes on, and it seems like there's just no recourse. It's almost like credit card fraud sometimes, and as a law enforcement officer, I've seen so many victims out here, and there's hardly anything that can be done about it. Would any of you like to expand on that just a little bit?
If I may, sir, I think you're totally right. I think one of our problems is we have the serious lack in gap in law enforcement between local and the FBI. If you're a big company, you can call an FBI agent, you can get 3 or 4 of them on the phone with you, they will be as supportive as possible. If you're Mr. Luttrell's flower shop or the church in your district, they're not gonna get an FBI agent on the phone. And if they call the local police, generally those folks are not prepared to help with international cybercrime.
Yeah, we're not.
And so I do think there's a gap here that Congress should consider of how to fill. A good example where this has been positive is in what's called the ICACs, which is the child safety world, which I've done a bunch of work in, where the creation of local folks who are then trained and supported by federal agencies to do child safety work. And in the end, it's local sheriff's deputies and local detectives, but they can call upon investigative resources from the Secret Service, from the FBI, from HSI. And I think something like that around cybercrime, of investing in the local capabilities, would be a good idea.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back and thank you all for being here today.